A light breeze sweeps across the ocean, drifting toward the shore. The water shimmers under the moonlight. In the pale glow, the silhouette of a man stands on the beach, gazing at the lifeless bodies of young men sprawled across the sand. As he stares at the bodies, energy beams emerge from them, forming glowing crystal orbs. The bodies darken, drained of their vitality. The man gathers the blue crystal balls, then walks away. He arrives at a magnificent crystal cave, his lair, and enters it. In the central hall, he sits on the floor, placing the crystal orbs before him. One by one, he holds each ball in his open palms, closing his eyes. Energy radiates from the orbs, flowing into his body. He repeats the process until all the energy is absorbed. Meanwhile, Surya, a middle-aged man, dressed in ochre robes, has knotted hair, fierce eyes beneath thick brows, and a beard, sits in a meditative pose under a banyan tree. He is preparing to take samadhi, a state where he would voluntarily give up his physical body and become one with the spiritual world. However, his mind is distracted by the tragic events of the past. He remembers his beautiful wife, Usha. Surya and Usha lived in an ancient house deep within a jungle surrounded by towering trees, where the forest animals grew to be their trusted companions. Usha was especially fond of a deer, and she would often feed it fresh leaves as it nuzzled her hands. Surya would watch in amusement as she would talk to the deer in whispers, and it would nod its head as if understanding. Surya loved everything about his wife. Only one little habit annoyed him. The kitchen in the house was an old, traditional one with a fire hearth for cooking. Usha would often forget to put out the fire after finishing her cooking, and Surya would worry that the house would burn down. Surya was learning the fine art of archery from a master archer and swordsman, Manu, who lived in the outskirts of the forest. Manu was considered the best in the land. Surya was his favorite student. Among the techniques that Manu taught the students, there was one higher form that only Surya could master, converting the arrow shooting from the bow into a fiery weapon. Besides archery lessons, Manu also trained them in breathing and meditation exercises. At Surya's coaxing, Manu had also taught him the deeper art of meditative consciousness, where one could even attain samadhi. Deep in his heart, Surya knew that if anything happened to Usha, he would not want to live anymore. Manu's favoritism towards Surya did not go down well with Manu's other student, Kaal, who was also his son. Kaal longed for his father's approval and validation, and in order to win him over, he would try to hone his archery skills, but he could never match up to Surya. Kaal began to hate Surya. This hatred came to a boiling point when Surya won an archery contest organized by Manu. Kaal stormed away from there. Later, Surya found him sulking near a stream. Kaal's blue dhoti was torn at the ankle. Surya asked him if he was okay. Kaal yelled at him to leave him alone. Surya was disturbed by Kaal's hatred, but did not know how to mend their relationship. Surya was on his way home, joyful after winning the contest and earning praise from his mentor, when he saw smoke emerging from the middle of the forest. With dread, he understood its significance. With a thudding heart, he raced towards his home and screamed when he saw his house burning. Unmindful of the inferno, he rushed inside looking for Usha and found her charred body in the kitchen. The fear that he had always lived with had come true. After the death of his wife, Surya becomes uninterested in the physical world. He meditates under a banyan tree, praying for death every day. Surya is jolted back to the present by something nudging him. He opens his eyes and sees Usha's favorite deer nuzzling him. Tears stream down Surya's eyes as he fondles the deer. He frowns when he sees something in the deer's mouth. He gently retrieves it. It is a torn piece of blue cloth, charred in one corner. For Surya, this is a revelation. He recalls seeing Kaal's torn dhoti. It dawns on the enraged Surya that it was the jealous Kaal who had burned down his house that killed Usha. Surya storms over to Manu's house to kill Kaal. The house is empty. Kaal had already fled with the help of his father. The truth dawns on Surya that Manu had known all along of Kaal's horrendous crime and helped his son escape Surya's wrath. When Surya realizes that Manu was aware of his son's crime, he goes looking for Manu to confront him. Surya is angered to see that Manu had gone into a deep meditative pose so that he would not have to face Surya. Surya contemplates his next step and remembers rumors of a white-haired mystical woman who was believed to have knowledge of things beyond the realm of people's comprehension. He decides to pay her a visit. He sets off in search of her and arrives at an oasis in the desert, where a kaleidoscope of colorful tents spreads across the sands. Entering a gaudy tent, he finds the young white-haired mystic seated amidst her paraphernalia. She looks up as if expecting him and gestures for him to sit. Bowing deeply, Surya sits opposite her, looking at her with deep hope. The mystic gets up and brings back a large round plate with beautiful inlay work, which she places on the floor between them. She gives the plate a spin and looks at it intently as the images on the plate merge to form a new image, which only she could understand. She looks up at Surya and tells him to go to the beach, where he would find a crystal ball. She tells him to bring it back to her. Surya stands, bows, and leaves. He arrives at the beach and is aghast to see the dead bodies of the young men. He finds a blue crystal ball in the sand and understands that they were formed of the energy harnessed from the young men. Surya wonders who would do such an evil thing. He picks up the ball, and it begins to burn with an incandescent light. Surya feels a surge of energy coursing through him. He is surprised at the potency of the orb. He returns to the tent with it and hands the ball to the mystic. She places it on the circular plate and spins it. As it whirls, the space around them erupts into a swirl of vibrant, shifting colors. The mystic observes the crystal ball intently. The mystic abruptly stands up and, grabbing a stick, exits the tent. Surya follows her. They walk to an open expanse of desert where the mystic signals him to stop. She begins etching lines in the sand with the stick, and the lines glow with the same bright blue light as the crystal ball. She tells Surya that the lines would direct him to someone called Nirakaal. He thanks the mystic and sets off. The glowing blue lines guide Surya across plains, mountains, forests, and rivers until he finally reaches the crystal cave. For a moment, the sheer beauty of the cave captivates him, and his eyes wander in awe. The cave is humongous and has many inner chambers, each different from the other. One has pillars, like a central hall. One chamber is full of black rock crystals and shines the brightest. Surya finally reaches the innermost chamber, where the walls shine like mirrors. Suddenly, Surya is alerted by the presence of someone, and senses that it is the person he has come looking for, Kaal. Surya hides outside the chamber, and stealthily draws the arrow from his quiver and nocks it, keeping his eye on the target, ready to shoot. Just then, the man steps into the light, fully visible. Surya is stunned. Kaal's body has changed. His skin is a striking contrast. Half black, half brown. He was not the same person. Surya realizes with a shock that Kaal himself was Nirakaal. Surya is bewildered. He slowly lowers his hand and observes from the shadows. Nirakaal, still oblivious of Surya's presence, peers into the mirrored wall and begins to talk to himself, his voice splitting into two. "You betrayed me." The first voice is heavy with hurt. "I was looking out for myself." The second voice replies, oozing selfishness. "You're a monster." The first voice is disgusted. Nirakaal laughs maniacally. Suddenly his eyes go wide with fear when he spots the reflection of Surya advancing towards him. Before he can react, Surya delivers a blow to Nirakaal's neck, rendering him unconscious. Surya brings the senseless man to the mystic's tent and asks the mystic if she could help him unravel the mystery of what happened to Kaal. The mystic and Surya sit flanking Nirakaal, and closing her eyes, the mystic begins to chant something. Nirakaal stirs. Surya is alarmed, but the mystic holds up an assuring hand. "I have only awakened the other being," she tells Surya. "The other being?" Surya frowns. Without answering Surya, the mystic turns to Nirakaal. "Who are you?" And slowly we see the man turning an ebony color. "I am Nira," the man says. "Are you a split personality of Kaal?" she asks. "No," replies the man. "I am a completely different being. I am residing inside Kaal." "Are you human?" asks the mystic. "No," says Nira. "I am formed from the energy crystals in the cave. I help humans, sometimes to regain vitality, and sometimes to revive them when they are almost dead." "Can you tell us how you came to reside in Nirakaal?" asks Surya. Nira then begins to narrate the astounding events. On that fateful night, he hears the wheels of a hand-pulled cart. He goes out of the cave and sees Manu has arrived there with the barely alive body of his son Kaal, laden on the cart. They lay him on a stone slab. He is barely alive. Manu cries helplessly before Nira that his son is dying, and that only Nira can save him. For Nira, this was a precarious situation. If the body revived too quickly, then there was the danger of him getting stuck in the human's body, and he could only exit if the human wished so. Nira instinctively felt a dread about Kaal, and he hesitates about reviving Kaal. But the sight of the grief-stricken father melts his heart. Against his instincts, he agrees to revive Kaal, and first takes a dip in the sacred pond. He returns and begins the process of entering Kaal's body. Manu could barely see him in the darkness of the cave. Nira enters Kaal's body, and we see Kaal's body turn half black, half brown. Nira is taken aback when Kaal instantly revives. Immediately, Nira realizes he has been betrayed. Kaal had gone into a deliberate samadhi state and stopped his breathing after being taught the art by his father. Nira then asks Manu why he did such a heinous thing. A tearful Manu begs Nira's forgiveness and leaves without answering him. The helpless being is trapped in Nirakaal's body, who now descends into complete madness. Nirakaal realizes that the energy of Nira coursing through his body was very potent. But he was not satisfied. He finds some young men in the cave who had come to learn the art of energy transfer from Nira. Nirakaal lures them to the beach, knowing that they could recharge themselves in the cave. Here he makes Nira remove the energy from their bodies, leaving them dead. Nira's voice quivers as he finishes his narration with a dire warning that Nirakaal won't stop until he has found all the people that Nira had transferred his energy to. Surya's body trembles with rage at what Manu and Nirakaal had done. To confirm the truth, he once again returns to confront Manu. Manu was gravely ill and was waiting for Surya so that he could unburden his heart. Surya sits across his guru and gently asks him why he betrayed his favorite student. Manu tells him, "I am a father first. A father's love for his son is greater than that for his student. Nirakaal came to me and admitted his crime and begged me to save him from your wrath. We both knew that one day you would discover that it was Nirakaal who had burnt down your house in which your wife died, and that you would not spare his life. Even if I hid him in the depths of the earth, you would hunt him down and kill him. The only thing you would not do is kill an innocent soul, and that is why I took recourse to the only solution I could think of to save Kaal. If you kill Kaal, you would kill Nira too." Manu asks for Surya's forgiveness. A few hours later, he passes away. Surya is grief-stricken at the death of his guru, and is also devastated that he can no longer kill Kaal. He returns to the mystic's tent and is alarmed to find the tent empty. He goes looking for the mystic and finds her in the desert, tending to a small bonfire. The mystic tells him the reason why she allowed Nirakaal to go. She tells Surya that before Nirakaal awakened, Nira had told her the solution to get rid of Kaal. Surya is aghast. If he killed Kaal, Nira would cease to exist too. He refuses to do it. "If you don't do it," the mystic says in a steady voice, "Nirakaal would continue to kill. This is the only way to stop him." With a heavy heart, Surya treads towards the crystal cave. He reaches it, and Nirakaal is startled and terrified to see him. He flees into the inner chambers. Surya follows in pursuit. A cat-and-mouse chase ensues. Surya gets lost several times in the labyrinths, but he finally catches up to Nirakaal. Nirakaal sees the opening of the cave and runs out towards a cliff. He is frantic when he comes to the edge of the cliff that overlooks the ocean. Nirakaal is about to dive into the waters, then stops. He turns and laughs evilly. "Why am I running away from you? You would never kill me." He frowns when Surya knocks the arrow, then smiles again. "Go ahead, shoot. Nira would die too. I know you don't want that." Nirakaal's eyes go wide in terror when Surya lets go of the arrow. The arrow turns fiery and pierces Nirakaal's chest. At that moment, Nira, taking the form of a ball of fire, emerges from Kaal's chest and flies away. Kaal staggers back and then falls off the cliff into the tumultuous ocean below. Surya shoots at Kaal in the ocean once more. Kaal dies. Surya then ponders grimly at the poetic justice. The art form that Manu had taught him finally served to end the life of his evil son. The ball of fire spins in the air for some time, then disintegrates and becomes smaller and gradually falls into the sand. Surya climbs down the cliff to the beach, and remembering the mystic's instructions, he gathers the ball of fire in his palms. The fire is surprisingly cool. He carries it into the innermost chamber made of black crystals and places it on the floor. There, the ball of fire gradually transforms into a large inferno. And then slowly the fire dies down. A large black crystal rock remains in its place. A tearful Surya bows deeply before the rock. He looks around the crystal chamber and realizes all the rocks were otherworldly beings. His vengeance achieved, Surya leaves the crystal cave. Surya spends his remaining days in the forest, caring for Usha's beloved animals.